The massive ring station turned slowly around the dying star, its metal surface gleaming with lights from 1,000 different worlds. Inside the Great Council chamber, beings from 47 different species sat in their special seats, each one built for their unique body shape. Some floated in water tanks, others hung from the ceiling like bats, and a few were just balls of light that hummed with energy. Ambassador Vexitar clicked his insect-like claws against his desk as he read the message on his screen. His 4 eyes moved quickly across the words, and his antennae twitched with worry. The other council members were reading the same message, and he could hear surprised sounds coming from all around the chamber. "Impossible," whispered High Curator Moleth, her voice like wind through crystal. The ancient energy being had lived for thousands of years and had seen many species join the council. They have only been in space for 50 years. Most species take 300 years just to leave their home system. The message was simple but shocking. The humans of Earth wanted to join the Galactic Council. They had sent their application, along with records of their achievements. In just 50 short years since they discovered faster-than-light travel, they had built colonies on 12 different worlds. They had made trade deals with 6 alien species. They had even helped stop a war between 2 neighboring systems. Vexitar had been the council chairman for over a century. He had seen proud species beg for membership after centuries of slow progress. He had watched ancient civilizations struggle to adapt to new technologies. But the humans were different. They learned fast, maybe too fast. A soft chime filled the chamber and the great doors opened. 2 figures walked in, and every eye, tentacle, and sensor turned to look at them. The humans had arrived. Captain Jake Porter walked with the confident stride of a military man, but his eyes were calm and friendly. He wore a simple blue uniform with small metal badges that meant nothing to the aliens but everything to other humans. Behind him came Dr. Lisa Grant, a woman with kind eyes and graying hair who carried herself like someone who had spent years learning about different cultures. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," Porter said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation system. "I am Captain Jake Porter, representing the United Earth Government. This is Dr. Lisa Grant, our cultural expert. We come in peace and friendship." What happened next surprised everyone. Porter turned to face different sections of the chamber and began speaking in different languages. To the Xanthari, he clicked and buzzed in perfect insect speech. To the Aquatic Federation, he made the flowing water sounds of their ancient tongue. To the Energy Collective, he somehow produced the harmonic vibrations they used to communicate. Dr. Grant smiled and added her own greetings, each one perfectly matched to the cultural customs of different species. She bowed to those who valued. Respect showed her empty hands to those who feared weapons, and even produced small gifts appropriate for species that valued gift-giving. "How do they know our languages?" hissed Council Member Silthak from the Serpent Worlds. "We have never taught them these things." "They learn by watching," Moleth said quietly. "They study everything, remember everything, and use it all." Porter activated a holographic display that showed the human expansion through space. But instead of showing conquest and domination, it showed something else entirely. Humans helping to rebuild worlds damaged by natural disasters. Human doctors working alongside alien healers to fight diseases. Human engineers teaching their techniques to species that had been struggling with old problems for generations. "We know that some of you have concerns about our rapid growth," Porter said, his eyes finding those council members who had been most vocal in their opposition. "We understand that change can be frightening, but we believe that diversity makes us all stronger." Morlach War Chief Grundar stood up, his massive frame casting a shadow across several other delegates. His species had ruled through strength for thousands of years, and they did not trust newcomers. "You expand too fast, human. You take what you want without asking. Your ships are seen in every system. Your traders are everywhere. What do you really want from us?" Instead of getting angry or defensive, Porter simply nodded. "A fair question, War Chief. Dr. Grant, would you show them the Kepler 442 incident?" The hologram changed to show a dying world where 2 alien species had been fighting over the last remaining water sources. The war had lasted 50 years, and millions had died. Then human ships arrived, not to take sides but to help both groups. We found a way to clean the poisoned water, Dr. Grant explained. We shared the technology freely with both sides. We didn't ask for payment or territory. We just wanted to stop the dying. The hologram showed human engineers working side by side with both alien species, teaching them how to build water purification systems. It showed human diplomats helping the two groups talk to each other instead of fighting. In just 2 years, the dead world had become green again, and the two species had signed a peace treaty. But why? Asked Elder Yimpel from the ancient reach. His species was old beyond measure and had seen many wars come and go. What profit did you gain? What territory did you claim? Porter looked directly at the old being. We gained friends. We gained knowledge. We learned new ways to solve old problems. When species work together, everyone benefits. War Chief Grundar was not satisfied. You speak of peace, but your ships are armed. Your colonies have defenses. You build fleets while you talk of friendship. Because the galaxy can be dangerous, Porter replied simply. Just last month, we helped defend the coral worlds from raiders. We didn't fight for conquest. We fought to protect innocent people who couldn't protect themselves. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Most species built their military forces to protect their own territory. The humans were building theirs to protect everyone. Hi. Curator Moleth floated forward, her energy form pulsing with curiosity. Show us your ships, human. Show us what you have built. The hologram shifted to display the human vessel that waited outside the station. The ship was beautiful in its simplicity, but experienced eyes could see the advanced technology woven throughout its design. It used Zenthari engines, aquatic Federation shields, and energy systems based on principles shared by the ancient reach. You took our technologies, Vextar observed, but his tone was more curious than angry. We learned from you, Porter corrected. We studied what you taught us and found ways to combine different approaches. We made something new from the wisdom of many species. Dr. Grant stepped forward. We believe that knowledge should be shared, not hoarded. Every species has something unique to offer. Humans are good at putting different ideas together in new ways. The council members looked at each other with growing unease. In 50 years, humans had learned what it took most species, centuries to master. They had taken alien technologies and improved upon them. They had solved problems that had plagued the galaxy for generations. As the formal presentation continued, Vextar found himself thinking about the future. If humans could advance this quickly as newcomers, what would they become as full council members? The thought both excited and terrified him. When the time came to vote, the chamber was filled with tension. One by one, the species cast their votes. Some voted yes because they were impressed by human achievements. Others voted yes because they feared what might happen if they said no. A few voted no because they believed humans were too dangerous to accept. In the end, humanity was granted provisional membership in the Galactic Council. As the session ended and the delegates began to leave, Vextar overheard War Chief Grundar talking to his aide. They learn too fast. The massive warrior said quietly. They adapt too quickly. Mark my words. In a few years, they won't just be members of this council. They'll be running it. Vexatar's antennae twitched with worry as he realized the war chief might be right. The humans had been in space for only 50 years, but they were already changing everything they touched. The question was whether that change would save the galaxy or destroy it. 6 months had passed since humans joined the Galactic Council, and the galaxy was already changing in ways nobody expected. Trade routes that had remained the same for centuries were suddenly faster and more profitable. 3 major shipping lanes now used human-designed navigation systems that cut travel time by almost half. The economic reports coming into the council chamber made even the most experienced trade ministers shake their heads in wonder. Commander Alex Stone stood on the bridge of his ship, the New Horizon, watching the stars streak past as they dropped out of hyperspace. His small fleet of 3 human vessels had been called to mediate a conflict that was getting worse every day. The hegemony and the collective had been arguing over mining rights in the Orion Arm for decades. But now their fleets were facing each other across empty space, weapons charged and ready to fire. "Sir, we're receiving transmissions from both fleets," reported Lieutenant Amy Foster, his communications officer. "They want to know why we're here." "Tell them we're here to talk," Stone replied calmly. He was younger than most fleet commanders, but he had already earned respect throughout human space for his ability to solve problems that others thought were impossible. On the planet below, Dr. Nina Walsh was doing what she did best: understanding how alien minds worked. She had spent years studying the psychology of different species, learning what made them afraid, what made them angry, and what made them cooperate. Right now, she was sitting in a small room with representatives from both sides, watching them argue about the same points they had been fighting over for months. The hegemony representative, a large reptilian creature named General Krath, slammed his clawed fist on the table. "The mining rights belong to us. We found those asteroids first and we have the strongest claim." Trade Minister Yelana from the Collective floated in her water suit, her tentacles waving with agitation. "Your people, destroy everything you touch. Those asteroids contain rare minerals that should be harvested carefully, not stripped away like common dirt." Dr. Walsh had heard these same arguments dozens of times from both sides. But she had also learned something important about both species, that they didn't seem to understand about themselves. They were both scared. "General Krath," she said quietly, "tell me about your homeworld's mineral reserves." The reptilian warrior paused, his yellow eyes narrowing. "What does that have to do with anything? Please just answer the question." Krath shifted uncomfortably. "Our mines are running low. We need new sources of raw materials to keep our civilization running." Dr. Walsh turned to the aquatic minister. "And you, Minister Yelana? How are your people's energy needs being met?" The tentacled being's color changed to a darker blue, a sign of distress in her species. "Our population has grown faster than expected. We need those crystals to power our cities. Without them, millions of our people will suffer." "So you're both afraid of your people going without what they need to survive," Dr. Walsh observed. "You're not really fighting over ownership, you're fighting over fear." Up in space, Commander Stone was dealing with a different kind of fear. Fleet Admiral Cole Drun of the Hegemony had brought 30 warships to the system. Commander Velesh of the Collective had 25 ships of her own. Both fleets had their weapons trained on each other, and one small mistake could start a war that would spread across multiple star systems. "Human Commander." Admiral Coldrun's voice crackled. "Over the communication system, you have 3 small ships against our 55. You should leave now before you get hurt." Stone smiled grimly. "Admiral, I have a better idea. What if I could solve this problem in a way that gives both sides what they really need?" "Impossible," replied Commander Velesh from the Collective Fleet. "There is only so much mineral wealth in those asteroids. We cannot both have what we need." "You're thinking too small," Stone said. "Lieutenant Foster, show them the survey data from the Kepler system." The holographic display that appeared between the two fleets showed detailed scans of a star system 3 jumps away. The system had no inhabited planets, but it was rich in asteroids and had several worlds that could be modified to support life. "What you're looking at," Stone explained, "is a system that could provide enough resources for both your civilizations for the next 1,000 years. The only problem is that it would take traditional terraforming methods about 200 years to make those worlds habitable." Admiral Coldrun's laugh was like rocks grinding together. "Then what good does that do us? Our people need resources, now not in 2 centuries. "That's where humans come in," Stone replied. "We've developed new terraforming techniques that can make a world habitable in less than 10 years. We're willing to share this technology with both of your peoples." The silence that followed was deafening. Both fleet commanders were clearly trying to figure out what the catch was, what price the humans would demand for such valuable technology. "What do you want in return?" Commander Velesh asked suspiciously. "Peace," Stone said simply. "Work together instead of fighting each other. Share the costs and the benefits. Help each other instead of trying to destroy each other." Down on the planet, Dr. Walsh was making the same offer to the negotiating teams. Humans have learned something important about cooperation, she explained. When species work together, they can achieve things that none of them could do alone. She activated a holographic display showing the terraforming process. This technique combines hegemony engineering skills with collective biological expertise. Your people already have most of the knowledge needed. You just need to use it together instead of separately. General Krath studied the display with growing interest. Your people would really share this technology freely? We've learned that knowledge shared is knowledge multiplied, Dr. Walsh replied. When we help others succeed, we create friends instead of enemies. Friends are much more valuable than temporary advantages. The breakthrough came when Minister Yil-Ana realized something important. If we worked together on this terraforming project, we could create 3 new worlds instead of just fighting over one set of asteroids. 3 worlds that could support both our species, General Krath added, his voice growing thoughtful. Our people could live and work side by side instead of always preparing for war. Back in space, the 2 fleet commanders were having a harder time accepting the human proposal. Military leaders from both species had been taught to think in terms of victory and defeat, not cooperation and shared success. That changed when Commander Stone decided to demonstrate just how advanced human technology had become. Computer, target all weapon systems on both fleets. Disable only, no permanent damage. Sir, that's 55 ships, Lieutenant Foster said quietly. I'm aware of the numbers, Stone replied calmly. What happened next became legend throughout the galaxy. The 3 small human ships moved with impossible speed and precision. Their electronic warfare systems, more advanced than anything the older species had seen, reached out across space and touched every ship in both fleets simultaneously. In BUI-1, less than 2 minutes, every weapon system on every ship had been safely disabled. The massive warships that had been ready to destroy each other were now floating helplessly in space, their crews staring at their dead control panels in amazement. How is this possible? Admiral Coldren whispered. We learned from the best teachers in the galaxy, Stone replied. Zenthari Engineering, Aquatic Federation Computer Systems, Energy Collective Power Management, and a few human innovations tied it all together. We could have destroyed your fleets, but we chose to simply stop the fighting instead. The demonstration had the effect Stone hoped for. Both fleet commanders realized they were dealing with a species that had military technology far beyond their own, but had chosen to use it for peace instead of conquest. Commander Velesh was the first to speak. If we agree to this terraforming project, will you help us defend it from raiders and pirates? We'll help you learn to defend it yourselves, Stone replied. We don't want to control your new worlds. We want to help you build them. 3 days later, representatives from both species signed the Treaty of Orion Arm, the first multi-species peace agreement in over a century. The treaty established joint terraforming colonies, shared resource extraction, and mutual defense agreements. As the ceremony ended and the delegates prepared to return to their homeworlds, Admiral Coldren found himself talking to his intelligence officer. Report to High Command, the old warrior said quietly. Tell them the humans don't think like us. They see solutions where we see only problems. They make friends where we make enemies. He paused, watching the human ships prepare to depart. If this continues, they won't just be members of the Council. They'll be leading it within a decade. The intelligence officer nodded grimly. Should we consider them a threat? Coldren was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, he finally said. But I know one thing for certain. The galaxy is changing and the humans are the ones changing it. 2 years had passed since the Treaty of Orion Arm, and the galaxy had watched in amazement as humans continued to surprise everyone. The terraforming project had succeeded beyond all expectations, creating 3 beautiful worlds where the hegemony and collective now lived and worked together. But that was just the beginning. President Maria Santos stood before the Galactic Council, her voice carrying across the great chamber to representatives of dozens of species. She was the first human to be elected as Earth's interstellar president, and her announcement today would change everything. Honored delegates, she began. I am here to announce the formation of the Terran Federation. All human colonies and settlements have agreed to unite under one government, one military, and one purpose, to protect and serve not just humanity, but all peaceful species in the galaxy. The reaction was immediate and mixed. Some species applauded, impressed by humanity's continued growth and organization. Others shifted nervously in their seats, worried about what this unity might mean for the balance of power. Furthermore, President Santos continued, "We are establishing the Human Defense Initiative. This rapid response force will be available to help any council member defend against external threats, natural disasters, or humanitarian crises." Prime Intellect. Zarkon of the Synthesis leaned forward in his floating chair. His species had ruled through superior technology for thousands of years, and they prided themselves on being the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. But lately, human scientists had been doing things that made even the Synthesis nervous. "President Santos," he said, his voice like computer data being processed, "your people have been studying our technology, reverse engineering our most advanced systems. Some of my advisors believe this represents a threat to galactic stability." Santos nodded calmly. "Prime Intellect, we study everything we can learn from. But we don't steal, we improve. We take good ideas and make them better, then share those improvements with everyone." "But why?" asked Elder Nimara, her ancient voice filled with confusion. She was one of the oldest beings in the galaxy, having lived for over 10,000 years. Most species guard their technological advantages carefully. "Why do you give away your secrets?" "Because secrets only help one species," Santos replied. "Shared knowledge helps everyone. When we make the galaxy stronger, we make ourselves safer too." The tension in the chamber was growing thicker by the minute. Many of the older species were beginning to understand that humanity's rapid growth wasn't slowing down, it was speeding up. In just a few years, humans had gone from newcomers to major players in galactic politics. That tension exploded into terror when the alarms began, sounding throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed, and the chamber's communication system crackled to life with urgent messages from across the galaxy. "Void Reapers have been detected in the Outer Rim," announced the station's AI. "Multiple systems under attack. This is not a drill." The chamber fell silent. Every species in the galaxy knew about the Void Reapers, ancient machines from beyond the galactic edge that appeared every few centuries to destroy entire civilizations. They had wiped out dozens of species over the millennia, and no one had ever found a way to stop them permanently. Elder Nimara's voice shook with fear. "The last Reaper invasion was 300 years ago. They destroyed the Kalari civilization and their 12 colony worlds. Over 2 billion lives lost." "How many ships do they have this time?" asked War Chief Grundar, his warrior instincts taking over despite his fear. The answer came from the tactical display that appeared in the center of the chamber. The Void Reapers had brought their largest fleet ever, over 1,000 ships, each one the size of a small moon. They were moving through the galaxy like a plague, destroying everything in their path. "Traditional council forces are being overwhelmed," reported Admiral Coldren, who had been monitoring the situation from his flagship. "The Outer Rim defense fleet lasted less than 6 hours. The Reapers are advancing toward the core worlds." "President." Santos stood up, her face grim but determined. "General Pete Murray, please report to the council chamber immediately." Within minutes, a tall human officer appeared on the holographic display. General Murray had been quietly building the Human Defense Initiative for 2 years, and most alien species had assumed it was just another small military force. "General," Santos said, "what's our readiness status?" "All Defense Initiative fleets are ready for immediate deployment," Murray replied. "We have been preparing for this possibility since we joined the council." Prime Intellect Zarkon made a sound like static. "Impossible. No species has ever been able to fight the Void Reapers effectively. They adapt to every weapon, counter every strategy. Then we'll have to try something they haven't seen before," Murray said simply. What followed was the largest military operation in galactic history. General Murray deployed human forces across dozens of star systems, but they didn't fight like traditional alien fleets. Instead of big ships attacking in straight lines, humans used small, fast vessels that worked together like a pack of wolves. Human tactics proved devastatingly effective against the Reapers. They used hit-and-run attacks, electronic warfare, and coordinated strikes that confused the ancient machines. While Reaper ships were designed to fight traditional battle fleets, they had trouble dealing with human-style warfare. Captain Jake Porter, now promoted to admiral, found himself leading the most dangerous mission of all. Intelligence reports suggested that the Reaper fleet was being controlled by a massive command ship hidden in the Dark Nebula, a region of space so dangerous that most species avoided it completely. "Sir, are you sure about this?" asked Commander Lisa Grant, who had been promoted to serve as Porter's second-in-command. "The Dark Nebula has destroyed every ship that's tried to enter it." "Every alien ship," Porter corrected. "But humans think differently. We don't see impossible. We see challenging." The strike force that entered the Dark Nebula was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Instead of massive warships, Porter brought 50 small vessels designed with technology borrowed from a dozen different species. Centauri stealth systems, Aquatic Federation sensors, energy collective power cores, and human innovation all working together. The journey through the nebula was terrifying. Ancient radiation storms that could kill entire crews were avoided using new shielding techniques. Gravity wells that could crush ships were navigated using advanced computer systems. Space-time distortions that could trap vessels forever were detected and avoided using sensors that shouldn't have been able to work in such conditions. When they finally found the Reaper command ship, it was larger than some planets. The massive vessel was surrounded by hundreds of smaller Reaper ships, all connected by energy beams that created a protective network around their leader. "How do we get through that?" asked Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster, who had been promoted after her service in the Orion Arm conflict. "We don't go through it," Porter replied. "We go around it." The battle that followed became legendary. Human ships moved in patterns that seemed random, but were actually carefully coordinated. They attacked from multiple directions at once, using weapons that combined technologies from different species in ways that had never been tried before. The Reapers tried to adapt, but human tactics changed faster than the ancient machines could respond. When the Reapers developed countermeasures for one type of attack, humans switched to something completely different. The final breakthrough came when Dr. Nina Walsh, now serving as the fleet's xenopsychology expert, made a crucial discovery. "The Reapers aren't just machines," she reported. "They're controlled by organic minds that have been preserved for millions of years. They think in patterns, and patterns can be broken." Using this knowledge, Porter's fleet launched a coordinated attack that overloaded the command ship's processing systems. The massive vessel, which had terrorized the galaxy for eons, was destroyed in a brilliant explosion that could be seen from dozens of star systems away. With their command ship gone, the entire Reaper invasion fleet lost coordination. The remaining ships retreated beyond the galactic edge, not to return for who knew how long. When the news reached the Galactic Council, the reaction was stunned silence. In less than a month, humans had accomplished what the combined forces of dozens of species had failed to do for millennia. They had defeated the Void Reapers, but the victory came with a price. Every species in the galaxy now understood that humanity had become the dominant military power in known space. The humans had saved them all, but they had also proven that they were now strong enough to conquer anyone they chose. As the celebration began across the galaxy, Elder Nimara spoke quietly to her aide. "The young species that joined our council just a few years ago has become our protector. They have the power to rule us all, but they choose to defend us instead." She paused, watching the holographic displays showing human ships returning home to cheering crowds on dozens of worlds. The question now is whether the rest of the galaxy will accept this new reality, or whether they will fear it so much that they try to destroy what they cannot control. 1 year after the Reaper War, the galaxy was a very different place. The Galactic Council had been completely reorganized, with humanity holding a permanent seat on the new Security Committee. Secretary General John Carter, the first human ever, elected to lead the council, sat in the chairman's chair looking out at the assembled delegates. The changes had been dramatic and swift. Human colonies were now achieving technological breakthroughs that older civilizations hadn't reached in centuries. Human trade networks had become so efficient that they handled nearly half of all galactic commerce. The Galactic Defense Force, led by Admiral Kate Sullivan, was so effective that some species were questioning whether they needed their own militaries anymore. But with great success came great fear. The motion before us today, Secretary General Carter announced, concerns the proposal by several member species to limit human expansion and influence in galactic affairs. Philosopher King Veltar rose from his seat, his ancient robes flowing around his tall, thin frame. His species had observed galactic politics for thousands of years, and they had become the unofficial spokesman for those who feared humanity's rapid rise. Secretary General Carter, he began, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. We do not question humanity's achievements or their good intentions, but we must address the reality of what has happened. In less than 5 years, your species has gone from newcomers to the dominant force in galactic civilization. Murmurs of agreement came from various parts of the chamber. Representatives from the Traditional Alliance, a group of 12 species that had formed to counter human influence, nodded their heads in support. Look at the facts, Veltar continued. Human colonies now produce more advanced technology than species that have been spacefaring for millennia. Human trade routes have replaced systems that worked perfectly well for centuries. Human military forces have proven so superior that the rest of us might as well not exist. Prime Intellect Zarkon stood up next, his mechanical voice filled with frustration. My species prided itself on being the most technologically advanced in the galaxy. Now human scientists are improving upon our best work as if it were child's toys. They learn our most protected secrets and then make them better. War Chief Grundar, who had once opposed humanity's membership in the Council, surprised everyone by speaking in their defense. Philosopher King Veltar speaks of human dominance as if it were a threat. But I ask you, when the Void Reapers came, who saved us? When the Orion Arm conflict threatened to become a galactic war, who stopped it? The humans could have conquered us all by now if that was their goal. But that's exactly the problem, replied Elder Nimara, her ancient voice trembling with concern. They have the power to conquer us all. Just because they choose not to today doesn't mean they won't choose differently tomorrow. What happens when they decide that their way is the only way? Secretary General Carter listened to the arguments with patience, but inside he was troubled. He had expected this day would come eventually. Humanity's success had been so rapid and so complete that it was bound to frighten some species. The debate continued for hours, with species after species expressing their concerns. The Synthesis worried about technological dominance. The Aquatic Federation feared economic control. The Ancient Reach was concerned about cultural influence. Even some of humanity's former allies began to question whether human power had grown too great. Finally, Carter stood up to address the council. The chamber fell silent, waiting to hear how humanity would respond to these accusations and fears. Honored delegates, he began. I understand your concerns. I understand your fears. Change is never easy, especially when it happens as quickly as it has with humanity's rise. He activated a holographic display that showed the current state of the galaxy. Trade was flowing more freely than ever before. Conflicts between species had dropped to their lowest levels in recorded history. Scientific advancement was accelerating across dozens of worlds. But I want you to consider something, Carter continued. Humanity didn't achieve all of this alone. Everything we've accomplished has been built on knowledge and wisdom shared by other species. Our ships use Zenthari engines, and Aquatic Federation computers. Our medical advances combine techniques learned from a dozen different civilizations. Our diplomatic successes come from understanding cultures that you taught us about. Admiral Sullivan appeared on the communication screen, broadcasting from the Defense Force headquarters. Secretary General, I've been monitoring the discussion. With your permission, I'd like to share some information that might help address the Council's concerns. Carter nodded, and Sullivan began her presentation. The Galactic Defense Force currently has over 2 million personnel. Of those, only 40% are human. The rest come from 38 different species. We don't rule this organization, we coordinate it. She showed fleet deployments across the galaxy. Human ships worked alongside vessels from dozens of species, all of them using shared technologies and combined tactics. Every major operation includes mixed crews. Every important decision is made by officers from multiple species working together. But you still hold the leadership positions, accused philosopher King Veltar. You still make the final choices. Because we've been effective, Sullivan replied simply. But we're not trying to hold on to power. We're trying to build something better. Carter took control of the presentation again. Which brings me to the real reason I called this special session today. Humanity has a proposal for the Galactic Council. The chamber tensed. Everyone expected some kind of defensive response to the accusations or perhaps demands for greater human authority. What Carter said next shocked them all. We propose to share everything. All of our technological advances, all of our military innovations, all of our governmental and economic systems. Any species that wants to learn from our methods can have complete access to our knowledge. The silence that followed was deafening. Species representatives looked at each other in confusion and disbelief. There must be conditions, Prime Intellect Zarkon said suspiciously. What do you want in return? Only two things, Carter replied. First, a commitment to peaceful cooperation with other species. Second, a willingness to share your own knowledge and innovations with others. Elder Nimara was the first to understand what Carter was really proposing. You're trying to make everyone like you. You want all species to advance at the same rate, to think the same way. No, Carter said firmly. We want all species to advance, but in their own ways. We don't want to create copies of humanity. We want to help every civilization become the best version of itself. He walked to the center of the chamber, looking directly at each delegation in turn. Honored delegates, we didn't seek to become the dominant power in this galaxy. We didn't plan to change everything so quickly. But change happened anyway, and now we have to decide what to do about it. The holographic display changed to show images from across human space. Scientists from different species working together, in research laboratories, mixed crews serving on Defense Force ships, children from dozens of worlds learning together in integrated schools. We have a choice, Carter continued. We can fear each other and compete against each other, or we can trust each other and work together. Humanity chose cooperation because we learned something important. We're stronger together than we could ever be apart. Philosopher King Veltar stood up slowly, his ancient eyes studying Carter's face. And if we refuse your offer? If we choose to limit human influence instead? Carter's expression grew sad but determined. Then you'll be choosing to limit yourselves. We won't force our knowledge on anyone, but we won't stop advancing either. The galaxy is changing, with or without our help. The question is whether you want to be part of that change or left behind by it. The vote that followed was closer than anyone expected. Some species immediately embraced the human proposal, eager to gain access to advanced technologies and methods. Others remained suspicious, preferring to maintain their traditional ways. In the end, the new Galactic Charter was approved by a narrow margin. The document established new principles for interspecies cooperation, technology sharing, and mutual defense. It created a framework for peaceful competition and collaborative advancement. As the session ended and delegates began to return to their homeworlds, Elder Nimara approached Carter privately. Secretary General, she said quietly, I want you to know that I voted in favor of your proposal. Carter looked surprised. I thought you were opposed to human influence in galactic affairs. The ancient being smiled, an expression that transformed her weathered features. I was afraid of your power, yes, but during today's debate, I realized something important. You could have used that power to silence your critics or force your will upon us. Instead, you chose to give it away. She paused, looking out at the stars visible through the chamber's great windows. Perhaps we were wrong to fear your power. Secretary General, perhaps we should have feared our own limitations instead. As Carter watched the last delegates leave, he felt both hope and uncertainty about the future. Humanity had become the leading force in galactic civilization, but they had chosen to use that leadership to elevate others rather than dominate them. Whether the other species would embrace this new vision or reject it remained to be seen. But for the first time in galactic history, every species had the opportunity to reach their full potential. The age of human dominance was over before it had truly begun, replaced by something far more ambitious, the age of galactic cooperation. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter that day, as if the galaxy itself approved of the choice that had been made.